Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another edition of The Oldish TV. My name is Karen Brown, and as always, I am your host and so happy to be here with you. Last week, we talked about falls and the importance of protecting yourself against that possibility, and nearly 10,000 of you watched that. So I know that these issues are on your mind and paramount in your thinking. At the heart of all of the wishing and preparing your home is wanting to stay in your own home. Something a little over 90% of us say that we do want to stay in our own homes for as long as possible. We want to avoid having to go live with an adult child, for instance, and we definitely want to avoid having to go into a facility of some kind. So, we need to make those preparations. It's not always as easy as all that. We have to do stuff. We have to work for it. We have to make sure that our homes are modified to accommodate our needs. And in the past, we have had discussions about that, making sure that you can enter and exit your home without anything impeding your path or your mobility, making sure that your bathroom can accommodate you, making sure that you can get in and out of the shower or the bathtub and bathe yourself, making sure you can go to your groceries, your doctor, your pharmacy, get out and be social. There's a lot of planning that goes into that. You also need to make sure that your adult children and those that love you are on board with your plans. We've talked about that. If you haven't seen episode 117, go back and watch it. You can just scroll down in our videos and you can find it. It's called When Your Children Worry. And yes, there does come a time when there's a bit of a role reversal in all of our lives, and our adult children start to question what we're doing and maybe start to parent us a bit. You may like that, you may not, but they're worried and they don't want you to do anything silly. And they want you to stay independent as well. They want to be able to support you in that. But, everybody has to be on the same page. So you can go back and watch that episode 117 and find out about your children. If you want to find out about modifying your home against fall proofing, you only have to look at last week's episode. But today I want to talk to you about a topic that some of you have written to me about, and it has to do with how you do all of this. The discussions you have with yourself, the negotiating is actually what it ends up being. We negotiate with ourselves, sometimes with a partner. If you live with somebody, you have to negotiate with them. And these discussions can go on for a period of time, but it is negotiating. If that sounds a bit odd to you, let me tell you how that goes. For some people, there's a discussion with yourself or with someone else, A versus B. What is it like? What are the benefits? What's the value proposition of A versus B? Some people do not like making decisions at all, and they will totally abdicate that role, completely abdicate that role. Is that you? Please don't tell me you're abdicating any of your responsibilities to yourself. Other people, will make those decisions eventually. If you're abdicating the role, sooner or later, a decision will have to be made because honestly, folks, the years ahead of us are not as many in number as the years behind us. So I'm not saying we're going to get sick or the years ahead of us need to be as joyful, and they need to be what we want them to be. But that takes some work. It takes some planning. It's not going to just happen. Then there are other people who sort of dither between the pros and the cons, and hopefully eventually they will be able to make a decision because the decision is going to be made. I want it to be by you. So let's talk about the broad strokes of how that decision making might happen. As those of you who have been longtime viewers of the show will know, this is a process I went through a little more than a year ago. I sold my house. It's a house I had lived in for 23, 24 years at that point, and I had some decisions to make. Get a piece of paper, write down all of the things that are important to you about what your life is going to look like in your perfect world for the next 5 years, 10 years. What's important to you? For me, I was making a 10-year plan. You might want to be more comfortable making a 5-year plan. Up to you. No judgment. This is your plan. Okay. So write them all down. And they might be things like independence, seeing your grandchildren, having a social life, exercising 150 minutes a week, going to Canasta once a week, having coffee with your buddies, going to the theater 4 times a year. I mean, whatever is important in your life, write them all down on a piece of paper. Not necessarily something you're going to be able to do all in one sitting, but think in terms of the broad strokes, not the minutia. Okay, do that. Once you're kind of happy with your list, get another piece of paper. And then using that first list as a reference, start putting those items in order. What is the most important thing to you that is non-negotiable? I'm giggling a bit because Anita made a comment. I always make myself an offer I cannot refuse. Yes, that's the value proposition, isn't it? That's exactly the value proposition. The number one thing on my list is independence. That's the non-negotiable for me. So the next two things on my list are things that are going to support that independence. So the second thing on my list is staying fit and healthy. Means I've got to keep on exercising, kind of have a handle on that. Pretty happy with that. Need to stay healthy. Number three on my list is making sure that I can cook, dress, and bathe myself. Now, dressing and bathing myself, if I stay fit, which is number two, I should have the range of motion and the ability to dress myself and bathe myself. Okay, see how this is going? It's a bit of an order of priorities. Cooking, honestly, for me, that's a bit of a struggle. I don't always love cooking. Sometimes the easiest thing is to, I told you that I've been baking my own bread most of the summer. Since the pandemic started, my daughter gave me a recipe that is stinking easy, and I love making it, and I still do it. Sometimes, though, I'm going to be honest, slicing off a piece of bread and putting it in the toaster and calling that dinner with some peanut butter on it is easier. I have to work at cooking myself healthy meals and staying healthy. Now, for lunch today, I'm going to have a banana sliced up with some yogurt. That's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. Tonight, I know I'm having salad because I made it yesterday and I've got some left over. We'll have to see what goes with that. There'll be something, some form of protein. But it's just this thing that I have to struggle with myself all the time. Number four on my list is seeing my children and grandchildren. So if I can make number one, two, and three happen on my list, number four is something that I should have the joy of doing independently, not making them come to me necessarily, but being able to go and see them. Number five on my list is staying social. Again, a little bit of a struggle for me because I tend to be introverted, but I understand the importance of engaging with other people, making sure that that social component is a part of my life, if not on a daily basis, at least on a weekly basis. Now, staying social can be as simple as when I'm in the grocery store, I run into a neighbor or a friend and we have a chat for a few minutes. A little more difficult in the pandemic because they're only allowing so many people into the grocery store at a time. So there's a bit of an obligation to hustle and get it done so that whoever's standing outside can come in and get it done. But anyway, staying social. Number six on my list is working for as long as I can on projects that I like. I actually love the work I do. I love the work I do on the oldish. I love the work I do on real life renos. I want to be able to engage with you in this fashion. I love what I do. So, you get the drift. My list goes on and on and on. And you put the things on the top of your list that are non-negotiables and you work back. Now, for some of you, you will be putting something like continuing to drive my own car higher up on your list. I put it pretty low on my list. Why? Because I have options. I sold my house, so I now live in an apartment that's on Main Street. I can walk to a grocery store, I can walk to a pharmacy, to my bank, I can walk to a restaurant that I really enjoy. I can walk to a lot of those things. Um, the other options would include budgeting for a taxi. That's not my preferred thing. I'm still driving my car, by the way, but because I can walk to these things, I quite often do. And that's okay. So I don't need a car to support my independence. That's why it is further down on my list. The reality is, at some point, we're all going to stop driving. That's just the way it is. We're all going to stop driving. We become a danger to ourselves, we become a danger to other people, and we've got to stop that. So, remaining independent for me meant moving from my house. Do I miss it? Yes, I miss my house. I lived in a neighborhood. I loved my house. It was renovated exactly to my taste. I had a nice big yard. But what do I gain in terms of not having the house now? Well, I'm not heating and cooling a 2,000 square foot a 2,000 square foot house. I'm not having to clean a 2,000 square foot house when really I live in about 25% of it now that my kids are grown and gone. I don't have to deal with gardening. I don't have to deal with mowing the lawn or shoveling the snow. Um, Somebody else I hired to come and plow the snow already, but I still had to shovel the steps. I don't have to do any of that anymore. So, that's a win. That's a win. Um, so, it's a negotiation. If I stayed in my house, I'd still have all that extra work to do. I'd have all the expense to do. Now I don't have any of that. And I'm on a main street and I can walk to a grocery store. So, do you see how that negotiation happens? You have to sometimes give up a few things that you can live without in order to get the things that are really, really important to you about how you want to live your life. So, these modifications that you need to do, you need to make sure that that happens. Um, you'll become dependent on other people if you choose to stay in your house. Well, how's that happen? If I had stayed in my house, I am more than 1,500 steps from that grocery store, from that pharmacy, from my bank. We know from studies that have been conducted at universities, people will walk about 1,500 steps. This assumes that your mobility is good. As we age, that might not be so much what's happening. Your mobility may decline, but we know that people will walk about 1,500 steps before they'll say, yeah, I'm going to hop in the car and go to that place. So, you know, if that's the case for you, and you're going to start involving other people in your life beyond people you pay for, I'm telling you, you need to involve those other people in your negotiations. For instance, groceries, getting groceries. You may need someone to take you to get groceries. You can order them online, but you still have to go get them or pay to have them delivered, I suppose. In my town, a delivery service is a bit hit and miss. The grocery stores don't technically do it. Sometimes they will if they've got time, but if they don't have time, they won't. So, I'm going to talk to you the way that other people may talk to you if you're involving them in your life. I've got a life of my own. I've got kids to raise. I've got a job to do. I've got a partner that I want to spend time with. I want to be social with my friends. I want to continue doing my job. And you might be infringing on my life to a greater or lesser extent. That is why, my friends, you need to involve other people in your negotiations. This business of asking my daughter, for instance, to take me to the grocery store once a week, that has a way of turning into the daughter is now making the shopping list, taking me to the grocery store, really doing all the shopping, coming home, putting all the stuff away, cooking all the groceries, cooking all the meals rather, and cleaning up afterward. There's a vast difference between taking mom to the grocery store once a week and all of a sudden being responsible for doing all of that cooking and prep work and cleaning up afterward. That kind of a decline can happen in a lot of us faster than we would like. So you need to consider that. If you are bringing other people into your equation, you need to negotiate with them to make sure that we're all on the same page. Your children want to remain your children. They don't want to necessarily bathe you and dress you and toilet you. For you, that may be a cultural thing. And again, that is your life, no judgment. But if that is not what your children see themselves doing, if that's not how they see their role, get it out on the table and have that discussion. It is a negotiation. And before you can decide on what is best for you, you need to understand their part in this as well. You may not want your children to be involved in that way, and that's fine. You still need to figure out how to get the groceries, how to get to the doctor, how to, how to do all that stuff. If you put staying in your home higher on your list and your home is not accessible to all of these things. So, for you, the option may be what it was for me. Sell the house and move closer to a place where I can be more independent in terms of looking after myself. That's right for me. May not be right for you. You need to figure it out and have that negotiation. I know that some of you might sit there and go, tisk, tisk, tisk. My children, of course, they will want to do for me. As mothers, we may find ourselves saying, I gave up everything for my children. I raised my children. Motherhood is not this reciprocal deal. We raise our children to be strong, resourceful, contributing individuals out in society. We want them to fly away. That is what we raise them to do, is to fly away. We don't own them. We only have them in our lives in that mothering way for a short while. And yes, we want to stay connected with them. Not suggesting we don't, but we don't raise them to be tethered to us. Tethering is a very different process from, we want to see them and we want to be social with these children. My older daughter this year is responsible for Thanksgiving dinner, and now I don't have to cook the whole thing. I just have one dish and I'm taking it to her house. Ah, isn't that wonderful? Yes, well, that's the way things really should go. So, just be careful about how you do that negotiation. Negotiate for yourself what your life will look like for the next 5 years or 10 years or whatever period of time. Make that list. Negotiate with whoever you've got to negotiate with. Some of you, it might be your children. Some of you, it might be a partner. Some of you, it might be both. Oh my goodness. Bless your heart. For some of you, like me, it's me. I have to negotiate with me what my life is going to look like. And that is how I have done that. And once you get that all decided and negotiated and organized, your life will be what you want your life to be. Oh, here we go. Hi, Govila. How you doing? Love your videos. I did the same, sold my house and moved near my daughter. Yes, you can move near your daughter without moving in with your daughter. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, I'm so glad. So nice to see you, Kovila. And thank you for making the comment and thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. For those of you who want to continue the discussion about what's important in your life, and independence is number one on my list. It may not be number one on your list. That's okay. It's your list, just like my list is my list. But I feel fairly confident that I have my life organized for about the next 5 years with some certainty and 10 years in some broader strokes. And that makes me really happy. And now I don't have to fret about it. I don't have to fuss about it. The discussions were had with my children. We're good. So I am not telling you anything to do that I haven't done myself. So there you go, folks. That should hopefully answer the questions that I've been getting from some of you about how to move forward. Some of you are feeling stuck. There you go. I have unstuck you. So hopefully you can move ahead. I will see all of you next week on the Oldish TV right here on Facebook.com. If you are watching us archived, that's great. You may be watching us on YouTube as well. We archive everything over there. But of course, they are archived as posts here on Facebook. Take care of yourselves. Be well. For those of you who are celebrating Canadian Thanksgiving this coming weekend, happy Thanksgiving. It is my favorite holiday by far of all of them. It's Christmas without the stress. That's how I look at it. I have always loved it. Be well, take care of yourselves, and we will see you next week. Until then, please do remember that it takes a village to age a senior. Bye, everybody.